This morning we want to think about resisting worldliness. Resisting worldliness. As Christians, and for that matter, Christians always, ever since the beginning, since the Lord's church was established, the church has always had challenges to face. There have been problems that the church has encountered all along the way. What do you suppose are the greatest challenges, the greatest problems that we today face as members of the Lord's body? I don't think I'm exaggerating. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm not sure that there's any greater problem that you and I, any greater challenge, any greater threat that we are faced with than this matter of worldliness. Worldliness is an ongoing, it's a continual threat. As we're engaged in this spiritual battle, this battle for the soul, the evil one is working tirelessly, day and night, to come between you and me and our God. He wants to create distance, isolation, alienation. He wants you and me to experience and to suffer the same fate that he will experience, that everlasting punishment, that everlasting separation from God and his love. You and I need to be a people who are aware of the challenges that we face. You and I must be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, if you and I will overcome. Resisting worldliness. When we talk about being worldly, John, in his epistle, 1 John 2:15, as we read a moment ago, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. When we talk about the world and worldliness, what are we talking about? We're not talking about the created universe. In Genesis chapter 1 and verse 31, when God, on those 6 days of creation, after he created the various respective things, he saw his work overall and he called it good. Everything that he had made was good. And so the problem is not with the material universe. The problem, the world, is not the people in this context. It's not the people that you and I are to not love. In fact, we see that God loves the world in that sense. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And so we're not talking about the material of the created universe, nor are we talking about the people on earth. What are we talking about? We talk about the fact that we're not to love the world. Let's think for just a moment about what the world is and why it is an existential threat to us as Christians. The world is the dominion of Satan. It is the system of evil that opposes God. And so there are two governments, spiritually speaking. There is the kingdom of light, of which Jesus is Lord and head. And then there's the kingdom of darkness. Jesus, you recall, on 3 separate occasions in the Gospel of John, he spoke of the evil one as the prince of this world. So the evil one, Satan, is the ruler. He is head, if you will, over the kingdom of darkness, the kingdom of the world. To be worldly is to be formed and fashioned after that which opposes God and his truth. Someone has described it this way, and I think this is a definition, if you will, that you and I need to take home with us. As we think about what worldliness is, we need to remember that worldliness is whatever makes sin look normal and righteousness look strange. The world has its value system. The world has its standard. The world continues to veer further and further to the left. The world has changed dramatically over the last decade. Can you imagine how the world, the United States of America, how we have changed as a people over the last decade, over the last 20 years? over the last 30, 40, 50, 70 years? Can you think about how the world has changed since Jesus was here upon the earth? There have been some changes. Yes, sin has always existed. But culture is veering further and farther away from God. As the world shifts further and further to the left, where does that leave you and me? Are you and I, are we standing firm in the light? Are we continuing to walk in the pathway of righteousness? Or are we finding ourselves as a people, as the body of Christ, are we too being pulled along gradually toward the shifting sand? Are we shifting toward the darkness over a period of time? You see, worldliness is something that takes place incrementally. It's not something that happens all at once. But it could be that you and I, 1 degree at a time, we are accepting things that we used not to accept. Worldliness is whatever makes sin look normal. It makes righteousness look strange. Worldliness is departing from God. Someone has said it is a man-centered way of thinking. Worldliness is the mindset of the unregenerate. It adopts idols and is at war with God. As we have looked at some descriptions of what worldliness is, you and I, as young people, as middle-aged and older, we should readily see the threat of worldliness. And how you and I must be careful about accepting worldly ways, worldly ideas. Recall back in the Old Testament days, with reference to God's people, in 1 Samuel chapter 8, 3 through 7, this was a time of transition. As God's people transitioned from the history, the era of the judges to the kings. In 1 Samuel chapter 8, 3, beginning, and his son, speaking of Samuel, walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes, and perverted judgment. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. This certainly was a sad commentary, the state of affairs within the nation of Israel at this particular juncture in their history. As they wanted to identify with the nations, the world around it, Israel was no longer satisfied with God and His way. God said, they have rejected me from judging them. They have rejected me from ruling them, from reigning over them. Israel now longed to identify with the world, with the pagan nations. And so there is certainly a parallel between the nations, and particularly later the Canaanites, with the denominational world today at large. You and I must not subscribe to the mindset and the doctrines and the commandments of men. You and I must hold fast to the doctrine of Jesus Christ. God has a standard. And you and I need to be satisfied, have God to rule over us rather than men. I want to ask a question this morning as you think about resisting worldliness. With whom do you identify? With whom do you identify? You know, we're going through a change in our culture. It was said recently, and I read in the news, how that just a few months ago, the first birth, I believe it was in the country, Canada, that on the birth birth certificate, there was no gender specified. We live in an age where it's all mixed up. A child is born into the world. And we as a nation, as a people, we may choose to disregard the sex of a child. But that child is still a male or female. And that child should, if he's a boy, a male, should identify with males, with boys. We know that girls identify with girls. There is a distinction, there is a difference between the two, and that's the way God made it. That's the way God designed our bodies, and God did it right. But with reference to the world on the left-hand side, and Christ and God on this side, you see, they are poles apart. You and I cannot stand with the world and stand with God simultaneously. It is an impossibility. Think of it in a moment. Think of it for a moment as two teams playing tug of war. And you have the world on this side, and you have God and His people on this side, and there is no middle ground. You and I cannot stand in some, what we might want to call a neutral zone. There is no neutral zone. You and I must choose whether we will identify and pull with the world, or whether we will identify and stand with God and pull against the world. I want to ask this morning, do you identify with God? If you have been born of water and of the Spirit, if you've been converted through the gospel of Jesus Christ, you have been born again, you are born of God, you are a child of God, and as Brother John mentioned the other evening, God has no grandchildren. So you're either a son or a daughter of God, or you're not. You and I, we should identify with God and His people, because it pertains to our identity. Identity relates to various characteristics, various traits that make one individual or group of people different from another. And there is a difference. We live in a world that wants to just lump everything together. Sometimes we talk about a one-world government. There's this idea out there that we're going to all pull together, there's going to be one sex, there's going to be one government, we're going to be all the same. There are distinctions. Either we are of God, or we're of the evil one. There is no middle ground. I asked you this morning, who are you siding with? With whom are you identifying with? In James 4, verse 4, the Bible says, "Ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with God?" Do you not know that? Do you not understand that? You see, brethren, the same thing applies to today. How has God's standard changed from the first century? Let's suppose for just a moment you and I were living in the Jerusalem church. The church has been established, the word is being preached, and God has His standard of righteousness, His standard of morality and ethics. What has changed from the days of the Jerusalem church with reference to God's standard for purity and holiness from today? What license are you and I granted today that those Christians weren't granted? What freedoms do you and I have because we live in the 21st century United States of America? What liberties do we have that they didn't have simply because they were Christians? And you and I are Christians. How has God's standard changed? Do you not know that the friendship of the world is enmity with God? That was the case in the first century church. That is the case today. Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. cannot love God while loving the world. You and I cannot be a friend of God while being a friend of the world. When we're loving the lust of the flesh, when we're embracing the lust of the eyes, when we're guilty of the pride and the vainglory of life, we sing, I'll be a friend of Jesus until my days shall be done. Are you and I a friend of the Lord today, or have we been swept away with the mindset and the value system of the world? In John 15, 18, and 19, Jesus said, if the world hated you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. Has the world changed its disposition of heart toward Jesus? The world has always hated Jesus. If you were of the world would love his own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. How well do you get along with the world? Doesn't the Bible say something to the effect that all those that are godly in Christ Jesus shall suffer persecution? Could it be that you and I want to shun persecution and to avoid that we compromise? You and I must not identify with the world. The world is going to hate us. Don't be ashamed to identify with God and his people. Don't be ashamed. I want to ask this morning another question. How are you different from the world? Really? How are you and I? What is it about us that makes us distinct from the world around us? Someone has said that there are Christians who are so actively attempting to be so much like the world that there's no difference at all. Could that be said about me? Could it be said this morning truthfully about you that you are so actively in pursuit of the world's favor that there's no difference between you and the world? Could it be that all of us in this assembly have some work to do in this regard? In being different from the world, Peter describes we're a peculiar people. Worldliness begins in the heart. It begins in the heart. We're involved in a battle for the soul, a battle for the mind. It's not an external battle, it's an internal battle. But worldliness begins in the heart. Worldliness affects the mind, it affects the will, the emotions, the intellect. Worldliness is a virus. Am I overstating the case? Worldliness it's a dreaded disease that takes away our vitality, our spiritual vitality. It takes away our hunger and thirst for God and righteousness. It brings about lethargy. It brings death. Worldliness negatively affects us. It keeps us from being grateful for what God has done. It prohibits us from praising God and expressing gratitude, and it hinders us from sharing the gospel with our neighbors and friends. Worldliness paralyzes us. Romans 12, 1 and 2, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. That is the outgrowth. You see, verse 2 goes to the inner part, the man, the mind. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may demonstrate, that you may show, prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. You and I are offering ourselves on an altar. You and I are offering our children upon an altar this morning. We can read in history about how that God's people at times allowed their sons and their daughters to go through the fire of the Molech. They offered their sons and their daughters on the altar of false gods. Are you and I offering our children on the altar of the world? Be not conformed to this world. Don't allow the world to compress you into its mold. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove the good, accepted, and perfect will of God. God's will is, God is right, God is good, He is holy. And you and I have a choice of thinking like God by allowing His Word, feeding upon the Word of God, being strong. Ephesians chapter 6, taking to ourselves the whole penalty of God, whereby we may withstand in the evil day. You and I will either think like Jesus unto life, or we'll think like the world unto death, and will act and behave just like the world. Are you and I being transformed or conformed? What about the way I dress? Does God or the world know that I'm different from the world because of the way that I dress? There was a woman who had a certain surgery procedure to enhance her body. I'll describe it that way. And she was dressed in a certain way. She went to school to pick up her son or daughter. And there was this online, it went, as it does, viral. And the people at school who saw her dressed that day, they were speaking negatively about the way she dressed, because she was emphasizing certain aspects of her body. And she went on a crusade. She did not appreciate the way she was being judged. And she went on this crusade. She said, I want mothers to understand that there is no right way and no wrong way to present or to appear in public. Now, I want to ask you this morning, do you stand with her? Would you agree with that there is no, that's postmodernism. There is no right way, there's no wrong way to appear in public. Is that the case? There is a right way and there is a wrong way to dress. And whether male or female, when you and I dress in such a way to draw attention to our bodies, various features of our bodies, it's wrong. That is sinful. Historically, there have been women who have dressed in a certain way to advertise. I'm speaking of the prostitute, the harlot. Historically, and even today, there are some women who will dress in such a way to advertise their body. What is the difference between that woman and you and how you dress? If the world has a standard, and it doesn't have much of one, the world would say something like, well, it just depends upon the setting, the occasion, how you should dress. It all depends upon where you are. I mean, they might say something like, well, You have one way of dressing when you come to worship. And unfortunately, we fail there, don't we? Because sometimes we dress in revealing ways in assembly. But the world might say that it just depends where you are as to how you should dress. Is that what God says? Is that what the Bible says about modesty? Is that what the Bible says about shamefacedness? That it just depends on the location. It depends on the event. If you're going to a certain event, you're participating in a certain activity, then you can reveal it all. Are you and I different from the world in the way that we dress? You see, there are certain things that should be kept between husbands and wives. What about my entertainment? The programming that I watch on television, the movies that I go to see, the music that I hear or listen to, on and on. The entertainment. Do we watch things that we shouldn't watch? That promote lust, lasciviousness? The entertainment. Do I show that I'm different from the world? What about the words that I use? The words. Am I as foul-mouthed as the next person? The words I use. Social media. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. I was reading something the last 2 or 3 days. One of our sisters here in the congregation was pointed out a web page. I don't remember the exact name of it. Maybe it's something like greatparenting.com. Instagram, boasting 600 million users, is an all-encompassing app for both teens and adults alike. For teens, it is popularity, private and untraceable conversations, disappearing pictures and content, self-promotion, pornography, and connecting, hooking up, all in one precarious app. Do you and I use apps like that? Do we allow our children, our sons and daughters, to use Instagram, Snapchat? This person goes on to write, your decision to allow or prohibit stands to eternally affect who your child becomes. The app will test their character, integrity, morals, and decisions. Indecision as a parent is not an option. It does not acquit you of your responsibility. The bottom line is this: if you allow it, you are responsible for monitoring and training your child how to use it. Social media, the things that we share, the things that we like. We need to be careful, Christians, how we use social media and not allow it to overtake our lives. Are you different from the world? Don't be ashamed to be different. Finally, this morning, do you agree with God about sin? Is there a moral and ethical standard? The world says no. The world says you are your own standard. So it's right for you, it's well and good. In Mark 7:18-23, Jesus said to them, "Are you so without understanding also? Do ye not perceive that whatsoever thing from without entereth into the man, it cannot defile him? Because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly, goeth out into the draught, purging all meats." And he said, Jesus continued, "That which cometh out of the man, that defileth the man. For from within, out of the heart of man, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things, Jesus called them evil things. All these evil things come from within and defile the man. The world doesn't have a problem with fornication. The world doesn't have a problem with extramarital liaisons. Sexual immorality is just that. It is sin. And it will condemn us. Galatians chapter 5, Paul warns about the works of the flesh. And they that do these things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. In Luke 9:26, Jesus said, "For whosoever shall be ashamed of me and of my words, of him shall the Son of Man be ashamed, when he shall come in his own glory, and in his Father's, and of the holy angels." You and I must not be ashamed to call sin what it is. Sin is sin, even if everybody else approves and is doing it. In Romans chapter 1, Paul states a lengthy list of sins that the pagan people were participating in. And they were doing these things because they had rejected God. They had subscribed to a worldly mindset. They were haters of God. And as Paul writes that epistle, he points out to the religious people of the day, Israel, that sadly, they weren't doing any better. And they stood condemned as well. You and I, we are Christians. We are a religious people who claim with our lips that we subscribe to Christianity, to moral doctrines and truth. Are we doing any better than the world? It's not that we're better than anybody else. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not aiming at being arrogant and boastful and saying that we're better than you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, have we allowed God? Is God working in us? Is God lifting us up out of the sewer? Years ago, I was in a foreign country. And we had the opportunity to go in this capital city, and there was this body of water nearby. And we got out, we looked at this body of water, and I was just shocked. It was just disgusting. The debris, the filth, the pollution that was in this body of water right here in this capital city. That's what worldliness is. It's corruption. It's pollution. That's how Peter described it. Concerning the dog and the sow. Very graphic. And that's not overstated. The devil is the only one that can motivate us or tempt us to drink that polluted water in Guyana. To take a cup, we see its corruption, we smell its stench, and the devil makes it look so appealing, and we stick it up. That's what we do when we subscribe to sin and worldliness. We're drinking corruption. We're eating poison. As we close, think about two crowns. You know about the incorruptible crown. Think about a gold crown. And this is just for sake purposes only. That God is offering you a crown. He's offering you an eternal crown. And this for a moment say it's pure gold. It's the real McCoy. And over here, the evil one is offering another crown. And you know what it's made of, don't you? It's plastic. But it looks good. Oh, it's got that silver-plated whatever. It looks nice. When you and I subscribe to worldliness, we are trading the eternal for the momentary. Don't be deceived. Don't be fooled by the liar of all liars. Stay with God and His people. Subscribe to His Word, His truth. Don't be ashamed to say, I'm a Christian and I'm going to live different from the world. That's the only way that you and I will ever have the influence and the power to draw anyone from the world to God's side by being different. Maybe this morning, you will become a Christian. Maybe you're tired of wandering in the paths of sin. Maybe you're tired of being sick. You're tired of being sick. You're tired of the death and the destruction and misery that worldliness brings. The paths of sin too long I've trod. Like a prodigal. Lord, I'm coming home. Maybe a servant. I'm not worthy. Cleanse me. Forgive me. Heal me. This morning, that's what God offers you through Jesus. He offers you cleansing. He offers you forgiveness through obedience to the truth. And what a change God makes in your lives. You're subject to gospel call. You need to restore your first love. What do we do to assist you in your salvation when you come without religious sense?